Okay, so welcome to our Workshop Wednesday Fellowships focus on personal statement. And I'll say right off the bat that whether you are working on a personal statement for fellowships or graduate school or something else entirely, this is a highly transferable skill. So don't worry if you're not here for fellowships in particular, but that is what we'll use as sort of an example. My name is Morgan Kinney. I'm an associate director in the Center for Civic Leadership and one of our advisors. And here with me is also Chaz from the CCL.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chaz Anderson, or Chaz. I'm an assistant director and also an advisor here in the CCL.
Thanks. So a brief agenda, we'll talk about defining what is the personal statement, and how you develop your personal statement, do some values and goal setting reflection, and then talk about next steps. So our goals for this are for you to leave understanding what the personal statement is, understanding the process of how to get to a high quality personal statement, and how we can support you with that as advisors. To understand where you can find the prompts for personal statements, specifically thinking about all of the different fellowships that we advise on. It can be a little bit of a game to hunt down where the specific personal statement prompt is for each one of those. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And starting to generate some ideas about what the story is that you want to tell with your personal statement. So we'll get into that kind of workshopping piece too. So for starters, what is a personal statement? So a personal statement is first and foremost your why. What is motivating you, why you want to be pursuing this opportunity for which you are writing a personal statement. So it's an opportunity to tell your story, talk about your motivations, values, and goals. And to really explain how you as a whole person, not just your transcript, not just your resume, make a great candidate for this opportunity that you're applying to. And so you can really think about it as what can the committee that's going to be looking at your application materials learn from the other application materials that they have asked for? What is kind of missing from those pieces? And of course, this why needs to be put into the context of the specific fellowship or opportunity that you are applying for. So the context really matters here. And this is not to say that if you're applying to the but highlighted in different applications. So moment about, we're going to look at a couple of examples of this in just a moment. And then lastly, it's an opportunity for some creative expression. So it should be written in your voice. Once you're at the point of writing a personal statement, you've probably already selected the opportunities that fit your values and motivations and goals. So we really encourage you not to be worrying about fitting into a particular mold, to let those values, motivations, and goals drive you as you express why you think that you're the best fit for the opportunity through the personal statement. And it's really helpful in thinking about writing in your own voice and being creative to show, don't tell with examples, is another kind of tip that we'll give on that, writing in your own voice. Super important. You hunt down some of the personal statement prompts. So there's often a personal statement part of every fellowship, but it might not be necessarily called personal statement. And it is going to vary depending on the foundation or the graduate school that you are applying to. And so we want to look at a couple of examples. So this one is on because it is very deep in an application portal. So for the most part, we try to pull out the prompts for you in the fellowship's resources page. So I'm going to toggle over to that site real quick to show you how to find direct links to the different fellowships. Right here on the first page, you can find a direct to all fellowships. And then there's going to be information on each of these pages that it pertains directly to that fellowship. And so the website and application portal is where you would find the information for a lot of them. So if you are planning to apply to a certain fellowship, highly recommend that you create an account early on so that you can get into that portal and find the find all of the specific application prompts. So for Fulbright, you actually can cheat and go just to the website and find the personal statement prompt. But for ones like Churchill, you don't have that option. You have to make an account and get in there into the application portal. So it's there. You might have to hunt around for it a little bit. And definitely if you get stumped, feel free to reach out to one of us. But here are a couple of examples. So for Fulbright, this is specifically the English Teaching Assistant Program application components for Fulbright. But they ask for a one-page narrative that provides a picture of yourself as an individual. So they specifically speak to your personal history, family background, influences on your development, and a whole range of categories. And they want to know how what you plan to do in the future. So what are your goals? What are your career plans? And they specifically say that it should not be a recording of facts already listed on your application, or go into more detail on your program plans, but should be more of a biography. And then in contrast, Churchill's personal statement prompt focuses on your academic career and trajectory. So they want to know about what drives you and your motivations, but they call it an intellectual autobiography. So as they mentioned, as they mentioned here, you can discuss other work and activities to provide a fuller picture of who you are and who you want to be, but it should really all be anchored on the academic. So it gives you an idea of a couple of different kind of lenses that different foundations bring to the personal statement. So that is something you should definitely be aware of as you are drafting. And so that being what a personal statement is, how do you get there? I'm sure that is more of what you all are wondering about. And really simply put, we recommend two key steps. The first one being a lot of reflection, and the second one being a lot of drafting. So we really want to emphasize that developing a quality personal statement is really about engaging in the process. So it can feel really daunting to just sit down and write your life story, as you were saying, Annalise, that it can feel like I have a blank page in front of me, what the heck do I write here? But your life story has taken, 20 or so years to develop. We don't expect you to be able to just jot that down in a half hour. And so we really recommend engaging heavily in a process of reflection and drafting. So to help you with that reflection and drafting, we have set up some options on the, sorry, that's the wrong one, on the Real Rice Engagement and Academic Leadership Planning Canvas page. And this is a page that houses all of our advising materials. And so it has a lot of different reflection activities, not just about fellowships, but fellowships being one of the many opportunities that we can point you to on here. It is down towards the bottom. And under resources and next steps, we've put specifically a personal statement reflection page. And this is all of what I am just now talking about, but I'll just highlight here that the starting point, the values and goal setting activity is what Chasmin's going to take you through here in a moment. And then we have also developed a kind of bridge to writing your first draft. So after you've done some values and goal setting reflection, another little reflection worksheet that we're calling the Your Story worksheet. That looks a lot better if you download it here. But essentially asks you to think through 4 different categories of pieces of your story. So situational factors, the kind of circumstances that you have been born into and that have happened to you throughout your life. The choices, that's more of your, what you have made happen for yourself. What decisions have you made as you have navigated your life? Relationships, so who has been key in those decision-making processes, in what you have pursued, and interests. So what are your passions? What's driving you? And a few kind of next step questions to consider to get you to that blank page with less fear. So those are our 2 kind of main reflection resources. And then the last step will take you to our fellowships resources Canvas page. So because there are so many fellowships, it just sort of simplifies things for us to have all of the fellowships on a separate Canvas page, and allows you, as somebody who has declared an interest in pursuing a fellowship, to have a hub to go to once you're at that drafting phase. So once you are in there, there'll be a submit drafts for feedback button on all of the different fellowship pages. And that way you can submit it directly to us as advisors. But another piece I want to highlight here in these 2 steps is our role as advisors and how we can support you through all of this. So as you'll note, the reflection and the drafting is all you. That's work that you have to do in order to work through your fellowship application. But we are here to bounce ideas off of, to talk through some of your reflections if that is helpful for you, and to give you feedback as you are writing those drafts. And we recognize that it can be scary to share your life story with an advisor, and some of us you haven't met before. And so we wanted to just take a moment to highlight how we approach advising to hopefully ease some of those fears as well. So really want to highlight the kind of interpersonal aspects of how we approach advising. We recognize that you are put in a vulnerable place in writing a personal statement, and want to assure you that we approach advising with mutual respect, an expectation for mutual respect, and that we are constantly reflecting ourselves on how we can best approach advising to make it as inclusive as possible. So we are open to feedback, and we are really striving to listen actively to our students without judgment, and recognizing that everybody's personal statement is going to be different. Everybody's personal story is different. And lastly, this isn't written right on our page. This screenshot is taken from our Rights Engagement and Academic Leadership page. But sometimes we use things for assessment, so we don't have confidential written in there as a blanket statement. But in terms of the personal statement, absolutely everything that you share in your personal statement is confidential, especially in those really early stages as you're trying to figure out, how much you want to share with the application committee and where you want to draw those lines for yourself. You can say darn near anything to us as advisors, and it will all be confidential and kept within the confines of the CCL staff. So please don't hesitate to reach out with questions if you have any concerns about that sort of thing. Any questions so far? Oh, I do have one in the chat. How should/will this process of personal statement writing be different than undergrad college applications? That is such a fantastic question. A worksheet that we are working on but didn't have ready in time for this session is actually comparing your Rice Common App personal statement to what you are thinking of now as your personal statement going into the fellowships process. And I don't think I think the tone or difference is really around how you're different. There's no major, I mean, without the Common App prompt sitting right in front of me, I would have to kind of look at those prompts side by side, and maybe that should be part of the worksheet. But that we would assume that probably your personal story that you want to tell has changed during your years in college. But definitely we recommend that as a starting point to look back at your at the personal statement that you wrote to get into Rice, both because it's useful to reflect on where you have been and because it can convince you that you are totally capable of doing this. You've done it before with great success. And so that is an opportunity to get yourself started reflecting, is definitely to look back at that. But there's no kind of hard and fast difference in what it should be. It's about how you've changed. Great question. All right. And with that, I will hand it over to Chaz for workshopping.
Awesome, thank you. So like Morgan mentioned, through this process, we think that it's really helpful to have some structure and how we might think about shaping our personal statement and trying to figure out what it is that we should be including. And so we have various tools that are available for you on our Canvas pages. But one thing that we wanted to talk about today is mapping out our values and trying to do some intentional goal setting. So I'm going to drop a file in the chat for you all to be able to look at, but I'll also share my screen as we go through that document. There you go. Okay, so we have a worksheet that we call our intentional goal setting worksheet that is available on our Canvas page. And once we go through the worksheet, I'll also show you all how you can submit this as an activity on Canvas if you would like some feedback on it as you're thinking about incorporating it into your personal statements. So we start with your values because we think it's really important for you to start clarifying what's important to you. We know that your values can also tie really directly into your passions, your interests, your motivations, and your decision making. And so as you're thinking about writing your personal statement, whether that's for a fellowship opportunity or another postgrad opportunity, it's really important from our lens to be thinking about what shapes what's important to you and what drives your motivation so you can translate that into the experiences that you're looking for. So we have you start by narrowing down your values to a list of 10, and we give you some prompts on page 4 of this packet with a list of values that you can choose from, but also know that you might have some that are more personal to you, not on that list. And then encourage you to move down to part 2, where you take that list of 10 and narrow it down to your top 3 to 5 values that encapsulate who you are and what you value today. If you're thinking about narrowing those down, we really recommend thinking about what values drive your decision making, especially when you're under pressure. So maybe you're thinking about, I value honesty and I value kindness. If you're in a situation where a friend is asking you for your perspective, are you the friend that's always going to be honest with them and believe that they want to hear your truth? Or are you going to be the one that's going to be kind and believe that they just need some encouragement? So that's how we kind of think about prioritizing your values and recognizing that they're all important and have their place, but trying to really hone down on who we are as a person and think about what drives our decisions. Once you've got your list narrowed down, we recommend that you start thinking about what might be your personal mission statement. We think this can be really helpful for writing your actual personal statements, because once you've defined your core values, you can think about how you would want to represent yourself and talk about who you are and what's important to you. So maybe thinking about some of those experiences that you've had, maybe thinking about the decisions that you make and what guides you in your passions and interests, thinking about how your values tie that into who you are as a person and how you would represent yourself to other people. Values word list that I mentioned as a reference for you. And then we get into the actual goal setting portion. So we think it's really important to start by thinking about experiences that you've already had. So in the first step, we want you to think about some experiences that felt like they were really aligned with your values, times where you felt really excited about what you were doing, felt really fulfilled by the challenges or the tasks that you had, and start thinking about what made those really good experiences for you. Again, we believe that those are usually experiences that are really tied to your values. If you felt really excited about it, it probably meant that it was important to you. If you felt really fulfilled by it, then it probably meant that it was in line with what you wanted to be doing and what you believe is important and how you think things should go. So we've offered you some categories here to help you think through what some of those experiences are, but also encourage you to be open to changing those if you want. You can be more specific. So if you're thinking about academic experiences and maybe you're thinking about a research fellowship, feel free to make this your research box of experiences that you've had that have felt really mission aligned. If there are other things that you'd like to get more specific about, maybe your personal experiences are jobs that you've worked or experiences you've had with friends and family, vacations you've been on, whatever that means for you, just start thinking of some environments where you felt really excited and fulfilled by what you were doing. And then offer you some prompting questions down here about why they felt so mission aligned or values aligned and fulfilling for you, so that you can start thinking about how you might be able to replicate those experiences in the future.
I'll just interject quickly that these also make for great examples to draw on once you get to the drafting phase. That whole showing, not telling piece that we were talking about. So.
Yes, absolutely. Great opportunities to tell your story and give some color around the things that you're describing as your values and experiences. In the next portion, we ask you to do something that might feel a little off the beaten path, but we want you to think about some experiences you've had that have not been so fulfilling, that have felt really frustrating for you, or that didn't feel like they were aligned with your values. We think it's important that you reflect on these things because even if they weren't positive experiences, they can tell you a lot about what you don't want to replicate in the future, or give you some insight that I really didn't like this experience because it didn't feel challenging to me. And I need something that's really going to challenge my skills. Or I didn't feel like it was fulfilling because it didn't align with my skills. And so I was confused the whole time. I didn't have enough direction. So really narrowing down what those things are and thinking about why they didn't feel aligned with your motivations and your values, and thinking about how you might be able to use that information to inform the opportunities that you're looking for in the future. So once you've had a chance to inventory some of your past experiences, we get into looking at that intentional goal setting for the future. We think this is important because whatever opportunity you're looking for, you are probably already thinking about what's going to happen between now and then. So you can use this portion to think specifically about the fellowship or opportunity that you're writing your personal statement for, or some longer term goals. So if you know that you have a career path that you're looking forward to, and your fellowship opportunity is going to tie in, feel free to take some flexibility with this as well. But we start you off by thinking about what ways you would hope to grow over the next year or so, and have you start thinking about those goals in some different categories. We use personal, professional, academic, and civic to help you get started, but again, feel free to edit those categories as you see fit. And then we get into some reverse design, where you're thinking about what you want to do in 1 year, or maybe your fellowship opportunity, maybe your post-grad opportunity, whatever your timeline is, and then start working backwards from there. So if I know that I want to embark on this fellowship journey, what knowledge, skills, and experiences do I need to pursue in the next 6 months in order to get to this official end goal? If I know that I'm looking at this one career path, what do I need to accomplish in order to set me up for success in the future? So be thinking about some things that you can do in the meantime to help get you there. Again, we think this is important as you are thinking about your fellowship process. One, if you are having to write a proposal, whether for research or for travel, to start thinking about how you might plan those things out and what additional resources you might need to help you get there. And also to make sure that you're aligned across the board of what you want to do in 1 year is matching up with the things that you've accomplished in the past and what you're hoping to do in the meantime. And then we look at some next steps. So be thinking again about what you've identified as your core values and motivations, and start thinking about what resources you would need in the meantime, which can be access to people and networks, time, or approval from appropriate stakeholders and funding. Again, especially looking at fellowships. Thinking about the very first step that you would need to take in order to embark on that path, and then some follow-up steps that you might be thinking about to get you to your end goal. And the last part we have you do here is to be thinking about how your values are aligning with some of the opportunities that you're looking at. So if you're still trying to narrow down which fellowships you're interested in pursuing, we recommend that you take your 3 to 5 core values and see how they match up with the opportunities that you have. So you might have Fulbright down here as an opportunity number 1, and we would encourage you to look at the mission of Fulbright, look at the eligibility requirements, look at the questions that they're asking in the personal statement, and see how those are aligning with the core values that you've laid out, the experiences that you have, and the goals that you have for yourself over the next year, or looking at your post-grad opportunities. So we think this is a really helpful tool as you're getting started on your personal statement to help you articulate what your values and goals are, so that you can start telling that story and start narrowing down what you would want the foundations to know about you. Like Morgan mentioned, there are different prompts across the personal statements for fellowships, so also be thinking about how you might represent those experiences differently. I think when we looked at the Churchill personal statement, that it was asking specifically for your research experiences and interests. So just be thinking as you're inventorying how you might tailor them for the different fellowships that you're applying. I want to move us into the Canvas side so that we can see these opportunities on Canvas and think about how we might submit them. Okay, so like Morgan mentioned, if you go into our Real Planning Canvas page, you can find the goal setting and values activities in the module section under critical reflection. So we have a value setting activity for you here, where you can use that values list to try to narrow down your core values. And then the intentional goal setting is also mapped out here. You're welcome to just answer the questions that are bolded underneath here and submit those in the text box. Or if you want, you can download the whole packet and submit any parts of the packet that you're working on. We'd be happy to give you some feedback there. But like Morgan mentioned, if you are finishing up and are ready to start submitting actual drafts of your personal statement, we would recommend that you submit those on the fellowships resources page, so that they'll go directly to your fellowships advisor, and we can start looking at your applications for specific fellowships. Any questions about the intentional goal setting worksheet? I almost said workshop. We're in the workshop now. About the worksheet, or how you might submit that on Canvas and get feedback from advisors here in our office?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, if we submit just on the real Canvas page, who does that end up going to? And like, do we have an opportunity to then talk with you over Zoom, or is it like written feedback? Like, how does the feedback process work?
Yeah, good question. So all of us as advisors can see that on the back end. So if you would like for the advisor that you're working with for your fellowships to give you that feedback, you can make a note in there, or we'll reach out to you directly. Otherwise, you'll get commentary back from one of us, and you can then schedule a meeting with us if you'd like to talk in person. So if you have a preferred way, just feel free to put that in your notes of, I'd like to schedule a meeting, or I'd really like Morgan to take a look at this. Otherwise, one of us will reach back out to you with some feedback.
You also can always hop onto our drop-in hours. So each one of us has, I'll show you on our webpage. So if you go to ccl.rice.edu/advising, we have each of our advisors listed here, regular, weekly drop-in hours. So, and you can click to them right from here. That'll take you to our Zooms. So if you want to discuss it with a specific person or just want to discuss it with a person, you can hop into those drop-in hours and say, hey, I just submitted this. Can we look at it together and talk about it? Any other questions? Well, we are happy to finish up the recording portion and then see if there's anything that you guys want to workshop individually. I believe I had one last slide. Yep, here we go. A plug to come see us in our drop-in hours, which I just covered. Then you can find those on either of the Canvas pages. They're on our fellowship resources page, our real planning advising page, and the regular CCL website. The recording of this will be available on both of the Canvas pages as well. And then a reminder of our upcoming workshops and fellowship Fridays, which are short kind of 10-minute blurbs on different topics. So the next topic will be fellowships and identities, followed by a workshop on narratives, experiences, and identities in fellowships.